Hey, what is a node? Is it just a fancy word for a town? What is archetypes, and what is the difference between an archetype and a class? And what is Glint? Let's go find out. My name is Christian, and welcome to the Lazy Tavern. For this video we won't be going into too much details, but simply scrap the surface. For the node system, let's hear it directly from Stephen Sharif, the creative director of Ashes of Creation.
A node represents a specific location where a camp can form and gradually be developed into a village, then a town, to a city, and eventually a metropolis. Every activity a player participates in will fall within a specific node's ZOI, and these activities will contribute to that specific node's development. This is important because only so many nodes can be developed, and certain content is locked behind which nodes develop.
As Stephen mentions, nodes is not just a town or a point of interest, it's a whole zone of influence. The experience gained is a small amount from everything the player is doing in that area, that being questing, crafting or killing monsters. Once a node gains enough experience, it will level up and then starts to attract NPCs. When the node reaches its village stage, it will enslave nearby nodes, making the nearby nodes vessel nodes. What this means is that every experience gained in these areas, when they have reached their cap just below the mother node, will now instead go to the mother node. In other words, everything in this large area will now suddenly influence the mother node. Other than attracting NPCs, it will also be one of the places for governments, for taxes, for housing on fixed locations, for the commissioning board, and last but not least, trading. Now let's move on to Freeholds. Freeholds is another part of the node system where you hit level 50, go out on a quest, and then you can purchase deeds on the auction house. When you have acquired your deed for a certain freehold, you can venture into the land and own basically a farmland. This farmland you can use for building buildings, small farm area, have farm animals, and do your artisanship in these places. Artisanship is your crafting. For the crafting I will not go into more details in this part. For exploring and questing in Ashes of Creation, it will be slightly different than you might have been used to. It might not be as linear as you expect, but there will be three main ways of questing in Ashes of Creation. The first one is events, second one is commissioning board, and the third one being story arcs. If we start by the events, it's basically you go to an area, something pops up, and you see a nearby event. You can choose to go in, take part of that event, or you can just head off. Secondly, you have the commissioning board. Commissioning board is placed in your node, where you will find various of rarities of different commissioning quests. You can pick those up and head out to your venture. When you head out to the wild, a story arc will appear with a real timestamp saying how long do you have to actually do this story arc. Story arcs is major quest chains that will influence the world depending on the player choices that everyone has made in that particular story arc. The result of a dedicated story arc might vary depending from server to server what the majority of the people completing this story arc is actually doing. First time you venture into your adventures in Ashes of Creation, you'll be asked to choose an archetype or a base class if you may. You can select between 8 different varieties, and those will be sort of like your main bread and butter. These will also be the one generating your abilities. When you reach or venture into level 25, you'll get the option to select your secondary archetype. When you're combining the base archetype with your secondary archetype, you get your class. With the availability of these 8 archetypes times 2, you'll have a variety of 64 different classes. But be aware, that doesn't mean necessarily that you have 64 completely different classes. The base archetype will be the one granting you the abilities, whereof the secondary class will be the one just changing your abilities slightly. As an example, you can, as a hunter, choose the mage as your secondary archetype and maybe apply a freezing to one of your arrows, making your target slowed whenever you hit them with that particular spell, but it won't change the fundamental of that spell. For currencies, we'll still have the classic gold, silver and copper, so far so good. However, monsters will not drop gold. They will drop Glint. Glint is sort of like an element in Verra. Glint will have multiple purposes, as for paying your taxes, selling at a hunting lodge for some quick cash, or transferring into commodities. These commodities is cargo ready to be shipped for a nearby node or a node even further away. The further you transport your commodities, the more valuable they become at the entry. The way they are being transported is with the Caravan System. Caravans is a deep system that will provide various materials throughout the world, of course player driven. You'll set off from one node, traveling to a node of your choice. The caravans offer a PvP mode where you can either choose to be on the defending side or the attacker side. This will be out in the open world and everyone nearby will be notified that this is about to happen. If the attackers succeed hijacking the caravan, the commodities will become corrupted commodities, which can only be turned in at the black markets. Engaging in caravans will not make you corrupted. However, fighting in the wilderness might. Since every player in the open world can attack one another, it's crucial for a system like this. To make this simple, you have 3 colors: green, purple and red. Everyone starts the game as a non-combatant. You don't hurt other players unless you agree to fight, and there's very few downsides to dying when green. Purple, combatant. If you attack another player without their permission, you become a combatant. And if you heal or help someone who's fighting, you become a combatant as well. When you are combatant, you have only few downsides, and this will also automatically disappear after 90 seconds. Red, corrupted. If you kill a non-combatant player or their pets, you become corrupted. Killing a player much weaker than yourself makes you even more corrupted. The more you go and kill non-combatants, the worse it gets. And the only way you can get rid of corruption is by dying, or very slowly by gaining experience. The downside is that you can be killed anywhere without any consequences for the killer. You'll be appearing on the map for any bounty hunter. If you're corrupted and red, you'll not have access to your storage system. And if you're killed, your death penalties will be 4 times as much as when you're green. Now I know some of the basic terms from Ashes of Creation. Don't hesitate to leave a comment if you feel like I left something out. And last, stay warm and hope to see you again at the Lazy Tavern.